If you clicked on this video thinking that I will just be talking shit about China, I am so sorry to disappoint you, but this is not the video for you. If you also thought that all I'd be doing is praising China and glazing the country for being the best country on earth, this is also not the video for you. If you are someone who understands nuance, and I'll have the definition here. Got it? All right, so if you get what nuance means, if you're someone who's able to hold conflicting opinions at the same time, if you're someone that can understand that one person's experience does not dictate how everyone else feels or navigate the world, then you're my people. Welcome. Please take a seat, get some tea, coffee, whiskey, gin, whatever beverage you're into, and listen to me ramble about my experience living as a foreigner in China. So, a little background about me. I currently live in China and I'm about to be here for my third year now soon. However, this is not my first time visiting the country. I came here 2 times before while I was in university. I majored in Chinese studies. That being said, I will be diving straight into the topics that I have. My first topic up for discussion is the work culture here. So, if you're somewhat familiar with like the work ethic here in East Asia in general, then you're aware that people here work a lot, super long hours, and China is no exception. In China here, they have like this concept called Jojo Liu, which means 996, which also means working from 9 to 9, 6 days a week. As someone who's been working here for a while, I can tell you that people are clocking in way before 9, and they're sometimes staying even longer than 9 p.m. And sometimes those 6 days can turn into 7 as well. So it is hectic. I currently work in the English teaching field, so I think my workload is definitely a lot less than if I were to be in like another sector, be like in corporate or engineering or whatever else. So just to like give you a little bit of like context for where my opinions or observations are coming from, the work culture here is definitely a lot more strict with the locals than with us as foreigners. Like we work hard, but there's also definitely a buffer here that shields us from like the full brunt force of like the expectations of the work culture that I've observed. Yeah, so people are fucking stressed. They can, not all of them, they can sometimes, and this happened at like a previous job of mine, they can take that stress out on you as a foreigner, especially like in the English teaching field where you're working with your co-teachers in like a very close proximity for like the majority of the day. So depending on your setup and depending on like the type of person that you're working with, you can end up being like the closest person that they feel they want to take their frustrations out on. I don't want to say I get it, but I kind of get it. So, yeah, just like if you're someone who's considering teaching here, like keep that at the back of your head. And I feel like this is just, I would say, a rule of thumb in the English teaching industry in general. I've also worked in Korea for 2 years before moving to China. So there's definitely a lot of overlap in terms of those work relationships. Right now, I am at a school that I really like have a good working relationship with like most of my colleagues. So my experience has been like a lot more peaceful working here. So yeah, they're working like super long hours, and then like I said, I'm in the English teaching field. So as foreign teachers, we do earn a lot more money than they do. Those teachers are, I mean, the local teachers, they are aware of that. So a lot of times, like I said, it depends on the work environment. There's like a lot of animosity towards us because in their opinion, and like I don't blame them for thinking that, we're being overpaid for work that they feel does not justify the comparatively higher, not comparatively, the relatively higher salary that we're earning versus what they're earning for the amount of work that they're putting in. Those are just things to like be mindful of. And then just in like in a general sense, I've noticed that like the culture of like company dinners seems to be, and this apparently started happening when COVID broke out. Am I still allowed to say COVID, or do I still have to say like the panini? I don't know like what the censorship rules on YouTube are anymore. So yeah, around that time is when the culture of company dinners like kind of died out. I'm assuming since stuff like stuff since the country opened up again. Like that culture maybe like came back, or I don't know. But in terms of like the companies or the schools that I've worked at, I've been to a have I been to a company dinner? No, I don't think that that's the thing that I hear that other expats who are also here teaching are being expected to attend. Another thing that will definitely frustrate you if you're from a country, which I find is probably like everywhere else, where communicating well in advance is the norm. You will be shocked to find that that is not the case here in China. Like, lots of changes happen at the very last fucking minute, and it is so frustrating to get used to. Decision making here happens like from a top to bottom structure, so that means whenever a leader or boss or whatever top manager decides something needs to be changed, it needs to happen like this, and then the next day he will or she will be changing their minds again, and then you have to reorganize. So if you're someone who wants to know things in advance so that you can make plans, just have that like at the back of your head. And this is not just in the teaching field. This is, I find like this is just like part of the culture in general. Like last minute decisions, changing back and forth is just like you gotta roll with the punches or you're not gonna survive. And I mean, luckily I work in a field where those last minute changes don't make like that big of a difference in terms of like my workload necessarily, but sometimes like when it comes to wanting to plan your days off in advance, nobody can tell you when your days off are. And I will say sometimes that's used as like I would say like an abuse tactic. I definitely experienced this at my previous workplace, where they withhold that information on purpose. So, part of the culture, and then also there are people who definitely take advantage of the fact that it's a way to keep people in line. So yeah, inconsistent communication, be prepared for that. Second topic on today's agenda is travel. Here I will definitely be glazing China, and it's one of the reasons that I feel like somewhat reluctant to one day leave the country, because I do plan on leaving. But yeah, transportation is a fucking dream here. Hands down has been like my best experience anywhere that I've visited so far. There is such a huge variety of means of transportation to get to where you need to be. Especially if you come from like a car-centric society like I do, which is in South Africa. It's like a mind blown to just see that a society can run on public transport and you don't need a car to do that much, honestly. So yeah, in terms of transportation, there's everything from high-speed railways to subways to buses. Of course, okay, so subways aren't available everywhere. It depends on the size of the city. But yeah, there are buses, taxis, e-bikes, whatever have you, and they're so affordable. And the affordability has definitely enabled me to be traveling around the country as much as I have been here for the past few years that I've been living here. So yeah, and also it's very like everything is on time. Yeah, I cannot express how much real estate not having to worry about getting around frees up in your brain. So I definitely do appreciate that about the country. And yeah, so to further expand on just like traveling here in general, the country is massive. So there is quite a bit to do and see, especially if you're like a history or nature nerd like I am. You can spend like a decent chunk of your time here and still feel like you haven't completed your entire bucket list of things to see. I know I for sure haven't. Like, I still have lots of places that I want to visit. Now for like the downsides about traveling. No country does optics as good as China does. And this, if you're able to like read between the lines, can be both a good and a bad thing. So I will be focusing a bit more like on the negative aspect about it. But perhaps my negative interpretation or view of it isn't a negative for you necessarily. But if you've been here for a while, you'll notice that a lot of times when it comes to like hotel listings, things do not appear in reality as they do online. I mean, this is, in general, that's like just like a rule that you should follow, irrespective of the country. Like, I'm not saying like it's just China that does it, but I find that it's a lot more frequent here, and it's almost like the degree to which the hoodwinkery the degree to which you get hoodwinked is like insane. Sometimes, not always, but a lot of the times. Like if you really pay attention to like even in what would appear to be like a high-end building or like a five-star hotel, if you like squint, then you'll see like, okay, things are kind of like falling apart or they're not being that well maintained. Especially when it comes to buildings, like the walls here are paper thin. Sometimes I basically accept if I'm going to like a larger city, I just assume that I'm not going to be able to sleep because I will be able to hear. I'm also just like a very light sleeper, so I'll be able to hear everything. This has been the case 99% of the time. You're really lucky if you get a location that is like soundproofed. But if you're a heavy sleeper and this doesn't bother you, like you're in luck. Like then that's not like an issue for you. So yeah, just like in terms of optics, that's something that is a bit of a gamble. Another thing that I will add on in terms of like negatives is if you live here and you work, I mean, everyone kind of follows like the same schedule, but especially when you're a teacher here and your holidays fall within like this national school schedule, I guess, traveling around, especially to places that like get lots of traffic, is such a drag and it is so overwhelming. So far, I have seen that like their crowd control measures here have been like very good. I remember when I went to Chongqing to go look at I forgot the place's name now, but I know I'll put a little. So yeah, so when I went to that place, I wanted to die and cry, both. So the amount of people there was just the sheer volume of people. So that means like a 10-minute walk turned into like an hour because people are just like bumper to bumper. It is so full, especially during like the Golden Week. It was another time, I think during May is like not recommended times for you to come and travel, especially to places that are very popular. So typically if you do want to go to like more rural areas, and that's like the perfect time, or just like leave the country, I guess, but then that's also gonna be expensive. So you basically have to choose your battles and make your decision. I've had a pretty positive experience just like traveling here in general. Like there's so many like helpful services that if you just like take the time to look around, that could really like make your experiences here like as smooth as butter. However, I will say that after some time, you kind of notice that there's like there's a sense of uniformity that's I will say like I feel more neutral towards that, but like things start to feel the same. I'm talking about like tourist attractions, how they're set up. A lot of the inconveniences are taken away, which depending on your goals when traveling can be either a positive or a negative. So if there's things that you don't want to be worrying about, then that's good. But if there are other things, like if you want to have like a more authentic experience in some cases, then the idea that most places like have like the same amenities or facilities can potentially hamper that. But that's like a very, very, very minor issue. Like that's not even an issue. I'm not even sure why I brought that up there. But at some point, it kind of all blends into like the same experience. So yeah, I still have like a bunch of places that I want to see. Aside from just like giving my opinion on my life here in China, I do have some vlogs up already and I plan on making more vlogs. So if that's something that you're interested, please hit the subscribe, the likes, follow, whatever buttons, and stay tuned. So moving on to the next topic, shopping. And I would say that shopping here is no notes. I really just like have such a fun time just like browsing on Taobao, and especially like as a little bit of a fashion nerd, I'm really, really, really impressed with just like the types of designs and textiles. And yeah, it's just beautiful shit over here. And then obviously like there are, what's the word? Like I mentioned with traveling, like things do look better online than they are in real life. And sometimes not sometimes, a lot of times you do get cheaped out on purchases. But if you live here and you have like a Taobao account, you can just return things to the store, like no big deal. I would say like compared to like the first time I came to China, shopping has gotten like so much more convenient in terms of like procuring goods from other countries, especially if you're an expat here. There's so many other foreigners who also have like businesses here that provide you with like things that you might want from your home country. Obviously they don't have everything, it's not like an exhaustive list, but your options are a lot wider than I would say like if I had to compare like living in Korea, like you would have to go to like specific neighborhoods to find certain goods. Or you'd have to go on Amazon or wherever else. But basically, I do all of my shopping on Taobao. There is also the app called Poison, where if you're worried a bit more about like whether something that you're buying is authentic or not, they do have like an authentication process that they're very diligent about making sure that they are not shipping fake goods, because fake goods are obviously still an issue here in China. While I was praising the shopping experience here, I will say that if you're someone who, like me, and you can see I am a melanated individual and a lot of us come with like extra bumps and curves, that can still present like some issues. And if you are above like size 8, which is not very big at all, good luck finding nice clothes. So that's where you're gonna have to like start typing in like plus sized or big number when you're shopping online, which is a bit offensive. But that is unfortunately just how the cookie crumbles here. Their smalls are very smalls, and their larges are basically like what in other countries would be like a medium. However, there are definitely options. There are there are groups on WeChat that we're not Target, but like there are people here who have like issues finding clothes that fit them, so they share those resources amongst each other if they find stores that like have decent quality clothes that come in their sizes. So if you're able to, please join those groups. That will make the process a lot smoother for you. And then in terms of like beauty products, as you can see, I have like curly hair. I mean, it is heat styled at the moment, but in its natural state, it's more like a 3B, 3C curling pattern. So I will say that getting like hair products has definitely become like a lot easier. Of course, since most of the products are going to be important, they're going to be a little bit more expensive than in your home country, but it's getting a lot more affordable the more the demand grows for those products over here. I haven't had to go home and like bring like a huge tub of whatever along with me, because if I can't find like the exact product that I'm looking for, there's usually a decent alternative available. So in general, things are getting a lot more accessible for those of us who don't fit into like the beauty standards here. And then makeup. This one is a bit of a hit or miss. So while people do like Fenty is like part of like the collection in Sephora, so that's most likely where you're gonna be getting products if you're darker than beige. And then there are going to be some online options, but obviously the caveat with that is like you can't really like test things out on your skin if it's online, and you can't return something either. So I will say that for makeup, bring your own foundation, concealer, and whatever else along with you. Or you could just like go to like another country, I guess, and go stock up. But yeah, those are things that are still has room for improvement, especially considering like how there is such a huge variety of skin tones amongst Chinese people themselves. And I feel like, I don't know, it's such a huge disservice for these makeup brands to still only be catering towards like the palest of the bunch, when the women here come like in gorgeous shades of brown as well. So that's definitely something that I feel like could be improved upon. So now in terms of food, I will say that it depends on who you are as an individual and how willing you are to try different foods. I find myself like relatively okay with trying new things. But where I will give China its flowers is like they know how to fuck up a good vegetable. Like any vegetable, they will make a taste amazing. Like I know so many people who said that they hated eggplants before they moved to China because it's just prepared differently here in a way that's like a lot more tasty. So I really, really, really enjoy like eating vegetable based dishes here. I will say though that most places, like the food is like very, very oily. So if you're concerned about your weight, you are probably gonna have to either cook your own food or just like stick to like Western options for the most part. Of course, like there are ways to still maintain like a healthy diet, I guess, eating the local cuisine. But I personally haven't been successful with that. Like I gained so much weight when I was eating at the school campus, since my school provides like free meals. But eating all that rice and dishes that have like a fuck ton of oil in them was definitely like taking its toll on my health. So as of right now, I mostly cook at home. Now and again, I'll order out. And if I can find something in like a grocery store nearby, I'm able to order it off of Taobao. Like I eat a lot of beetroot, and beetroot's not really like a vegetable that I see in grocery stores that often, so I just order that on Taobao. Got my feta, anything, like even my meat and fish, I will order off of Taobao. So if you can find something in person, you will definitely be able to find it online in most cases. I would say 90% of the time. Like with most places, you're gonna want to be like a bit careful or mindful when you're eating street food, because it really just depends on like the vendor themselves. Like some vendors have like really good hygiene standards, some are just like get what you pay for. If you feel like playing Russian roulette with your gut, go for it. This is a bit more personal to like myself. As a South African, I know what good meat tastes like. So if you like meat, and by meat I mean like beef in general, sometimes chicken, pork you will find good quality here, but beef in particular is very expensive here, and getting like good quality beef is also a bit of a hassle. To be mindful of that if you are someone who has like a very like meat heavy diet, that there's going to be like some adjustments that you're going to have to make. If you don't care or don't bother with meat that much, you'll be fine. I will say though that if you're a vegetarian, I would be a little bit more mindful when eating like vegetable based dishes here in China, because a lot of times they do cook their vegetables in like meat sauces. So while there's not necessarily like a chunk of meat in the dish itself, like they will have cooked it with, like I said, a meat sauce or maybe with lard or whatever. So depending on how strict you adhere to your diet, that's just something that you're gonna have to either adjust to or just like completely avoid. But most of the times you can just like ask the staff what ingredients they use to prepare their dishes with, especially if you're halal, because there is a subset of Chinese Muslims here. So the forgot the region, but there are halal options here, and if you can find anything in person, Taobao is your best friend. You will find like there's like plenty of halal stores, especially if you live somewhere that has like a substantial like Arab community. Like the previous city that I used to live in was not city, county, was in Iwu, and there's like a huge Arab community there. So I had like lots of halal stores options there, and I'm going to assume that that would be the same in like maybe cities like Guangzhou. Yeah, if you're outside of those areas, you're gonna probably struggle a little bit and have to be doing the majority of your cooking at home. Sometimes if you're lucky, like I said, it depends on like your school. They might have a halal section for you, but in most cases, I imagine that that would not be the case. Second last topic that I have on my agenda for today is the issue of making friends. In general, I find that making friends is just like super hard being a foreigner in a country where, even though I speak the language, like not that fluently, but like a decent enough amount, that hasn't made like that much of a difference in terms of my ability to make friends here. And I have a couple of reasons for why this is the case from my particular experience. Some of them are going to overlap with like just the general experience of being an expat here. You can use your own judgment. And then also, if you do live here and you think that there's something that I might have missed or you resonated with, do let me know in the comment sections. I would love to like discuss it further with you. Making friends here has been like very, very difficult. And like I said, I used to live in Korea before moving here, and I found that it was a lot easier. Like I had an amazing social life when I was in Korea. I had things to do, events to attend almost every single weekend. I had to actually schedule time off in my calendar to just be like, hey, you've been doing too much, you need to chill. Especially since I live like pretty close to Seoul. So yeah, those were fun times, and I do miss it so much. But yeah, right now I am currently the loneliest that I've ever been. Just in general, like being an expat or living abroad means that people come and go. I find that the older I get, like the lower my tolerance, low quality connections is getting. And yeah, people coming and going is not making that any easier. In terms of making friends with the locals, my observations have been that expat men have like a lot of have a much easier time making friends, I feel, than us expat women do. And I wonder if that has to do with like the specific age group that I'm in at the moment, which is I'm in my late 20s, 30s around the corner. So most women, I'm my age, have families, or they're about to have families, or are getting married, so their priorities lie elsewhere, which is like, it's not a judgment, it's just like an observation. For me, who's obviously here single and I have no children, that's made like connecting with women around my age a lot harder, I feel. And it is unfortunately like an aspect of living here that I really, really dislike, to the extent that I feel like it's what is kind of like pushing me to want to leave the country, even though there's lots of other things that I feel like my life here is of a top-notch quality. If you are planning on coming here, do keep that at the back of your mind. I will say, like, if I had to compare how I was able to make friends when I was a student versus like working here, I had a much easier time when I was in uni. However, most of the friends that I had were the other international students. Yeah, and I feel like it's not even just like a me thing, but like none of us, and we all were like learning Chinese as well. None of us were successful making Chinese friends. We had good interactions with people and like people were friendly towards us, but in terms of like making actual connections and relationships, almost non-existent. And now working here, that margin has gotten even smaller in terms of like making friends. Yeah, just interacting with people here in general, like people are friendly and they're curious, but outside of just having the where are you from, what do you think about China, do you like China conversations, people don't really give a fuck. They really, I mean, they're busy, they have lives, so I don't blame them, but I don't think that there's like a very strong incentive for locals to bother being friends with foreigners, unless they're people who don't necessarily enjoy living here and they want to find community outside of China. Those are usually the types of people that I've been able to find like some degree of like common ground with, even though I didn't really establish a proper relationship or friendship with them. And then there's also those individuals who kind of just see you as an accessory almost, like you're not a person, you're just my foreign friend or my friend from so-and-so country, and that's not something that I fuck with. I will say though, that's not like a very common experience, but I have seen those types of people and I kind of just like avoid them. In general has been my experience living here. So most of the time you're going to be sticking like in your, and with the expat community here, I find that there's like, as with any community, I guess, there's a lot of like bullshit internal politics that I also am not up for. So I've kind of just been like chilling on my own up until this point. If you want to make friends or meet people, you're gonna have to use like WeChat groups, and getting access to those WeChat groups really is a matter of luck, because you need to know people who are in the group so that they can refer you or invite you to the group directly. And then finally, I'm going to get to the meat of the video, which is probably what you clicked on, because a lot of people are interested in just like hearing about dating cultures outside of their own. So from now on, I will be talking about my experience, not the experience of every like woman who looks like me. As I said, I am a 29-year-old woman. I'm melanated, and that comes with its own set of challenges here in China. I'm not saying that if you are a person of color or a black woman or whoever else, that you're not gonna have any success here. It's just gonna be like a different ball game for you to play if you are up to playing it. So for myself, I'm personally not really dating at the moment, and like my reason for that is that I do not want to get into a serious relationship until I feel like I have a decent social life. And as I mentioned before, that's not my reality at the moment. Dating is kind of like taking a backseat. I am open to meeting people organically if I click with them and like a relationship does develop from that. Like I'm not going to be writing that off, but it's not a priority for me at the moment. So here are my observations that I've made as like an amateur anthropologist. The dating culture here is incredibly streamlined, and by that I mean they cut through the bullshit when it comes to marriage in particular. So here in China, there's like this culture of marriage markets. So in certain places, you will see older people who will have like little pamphlets, and on those pamphlets there's like a list of information. Obviously it's all in Chinese. What I've seen so far like listed on those pamphlets are basically the details of their sons and daughters, and also the requirements that their children have in terms of like a prospective partner. when it comes to marriage. They'll list like their age, their height, their weight, and this is for both genders. They will list any assets that they have, and if they own a house, they will have something called a hukou. A hukou is basically like a type of like neighborhood registration system. I'm not entirely sure how to like explain it based on like my limited understanding of it. But basically, like if you have what would be considered like a good hukou, I'm not sure what those parameters are, but a good hookah means that you have access to better schools and better hospitals, I think. I'm not sure. You can Google it later. So those things are very important. And then obviously like your salary. It's not uncommon for people to just like ask you upfront like how much you're earning, which is a bit of like, I personally find that rude, but it's not viewed as rude here. So people will ask your salary or they will list their own salaries. And like something that I've noticed is when there's a bit of like a gender discrepancy in terms of like salaries. And I've noticed it like men here tend to earn like double the amount of what women do, or at least like in the city that I've seen so far. I'm not sure if this is like the case like in bigger cities, but here in like the smaller city that I'm living in, the salaries that women are earning are like 4, 5, 6,000 RMB per month, and then the men would be earning like 10, 11, 12 in general. Like obviously there are variation in those amounts, but that was just like the general thing that I noticed, which interesting. Then I saw that women would typically expect their partner, their male partner, to be earning double their salary. And then the men would state that they don't necessarily have a preference for how much their wife should be earning, or they just kind of their salary in half. So it's like it's kind of like expected, I feel. Aside from those marriage markets, I've seen that on specific days. So I know I'm not sure if it is like actually on Valentine's Day itself, but there's in May, the 24th of May, 22nd of May, one of those. It's a day where you will, or what I've seen. Bleh. It's a day where I've seen like lots of like booths being set up, especially in malls. They will have like these walls of pink and red flyers, so they're very hard to miss. So that's usually where you can see like the information of like people who are seeking a significant other, and then they will have like a QR code there that you can scan if you feel like interested in like, getting to know them. Typically the listings don't have their faces attached to their accounts, so yeah, just like keep that in mind if that's something you want to get into, I guess. But it is a bit of a different ball game, I'd say, for us as foreigners. So for the most part, the beauty standards here, at least for women, are to be super skinny, super pale, have big eyes, small nose, V-shaped jawline, or whatever. Not to say that if you don't have those things that you're not going to find a partner, but those are the beauty standards here, and they're very strict. I think it's apparently changing a little bit. I think there's like a growing preference for more like athletic shapes, but athletic, so like it's relative to where you're from. And what you're used to. When it comes to like dating the men here, apparently there's like a north-south divide. I'm not personally interested in dating, but if you are a foreigner here, aside from maybe like having like an office romance, your options are going to be going onto the dating apps. The apps, they do work here, like Tinder, Bumble, and what else, Hinge. They do work here, but there's not that many people on those apps here. Like your options are a little bit limited to most likely go onto like the local apps that they have here. I know about the one called Tantan. I'm not sure what other apps they're being used because I'm not on the apps. I currently only have Bumble that I use once in a blue moon. In general, the patterns that I've seen emerge from dating among us expats here is that foreign men, especially white men, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be calling a spade here. White men are most likely going to be coupling up with local women here, and foreign women typically either end up in relationships with other foreign men. That's just like a dynamic to be aware of. A reason that I am not that keen on trying like the dating with the locals is that there is definitely like a type of fetishization that's still happening. Just does not sit right with me. If I'm going to be dating with a person, I would hopefully want them to be engaging with me as like a human being and not like the flavor of the month. For the most part, dating is not, it's not the one here. In East Asia in general, I would say, like, my experiences in Korea have also been the same, and from what I've heard from friends who live in Japan as well, Same bag. That brings me to the end of this video. I think it was... my mouth hurts. So I'm imagining that I've been talking for a very long time. So hopefully, my yapping might have been of any use to you. If not, if there's something that you want to know in more detail, do let me know. And if enough people are interested in it, I can make a separate video about it, or I'll just be like having conversation in the comment section. And I will now be drinking a cup of tea so that my jaw can relax. I don't know how to end this video. Again, please hit the subscribe, the likes, the follow, whatever else, and I'll see you on the other side.